Hi there, and welcome to this Polish Up Your Pedagogy video about how to create a numeracy-rich learning environment in your classroom. This is part 2 of 2 videos. So this professional learning links to our learning sale on the Pedagogy Sales, which is learners progress through high quality learning opportunities to enrich knowledge, promote curiosity and develop skills for learning, life and work. This also links to your GTCS standards of 3.2.1, critically and effectively organise and manage learning. So in part 1 we looked at how to create a positive culture within the classroom. And in this second video we will look at the physical environment, and then we'll have a look at some manipulatives and games that you can have in the classroom to support the numeracy rich environment, and that might give you some practical ideas to take away with you today. So what does the numeracy-rich environment look like? Well, we want to give children that message that numeracy and maths is important in the classroom. And anything that's on your walls should be there to support the learners and not just to look pretty. It's also important to refer to these resources when you're teaching, as children will learn how to use them. And they will also know where to look for support when they are working independently or collaboratively in a group and they find that they're stuck on something. So we want to make sure we've got an area in the classroom that's designated for numeracy, and we want to make sure that it's clearly labelled, it's neat and tidy, and it might include learning intentions or class targets that you can refer to or remove and show learners at the start of the lesson. And you might even tick or highlight these with your learners as you progress through the learning and reflect on what's been learnt in class. You also want to have some key vocabulary linked to the learning that's going on in the classroom. So if you're learning about multiplication, then you want kids to be able to see the words for times, multiplied by, skip counting, groups of, and the multiplying sign, for example. You might even have a multiplication grid up there if you've already taught children how to use that and you've referred to it in your teaching. But again, as you're explaining things to children, then point to these words on the wall, so that they don't just become a bit of wallpaper, but they're actually there for children to refer to and to use independently. You might also want to have some photos and up there showing children working in the classroom, and have some speech bubbles or post-its around it to explain what learning was happening during those lessons. And we can ask the children to write those and get some learner voice up there too. A place value chart from P3 and above is a really good resource. You can tailor it to suit your learners, and you can add columns to the place value chart as the learning progresses. And again, refer to this during your lessons whenever relevant. So for example, if you're further up the school and you're teaching how to multiply by or divide by 10, 100, 1,000, etc., then you can physically move the digits along the place value chart and show the children what happens to the digits. So if you've got pre-prepared digit cards ready to go, you can use them with your teaching. It's also a nice idea to have a little washing line or a space underneath so that you can put the numbers up there. And you might even want to build this into, a lesson starter or a soft start, or whatever you do in the mornings in your classroom. You could have a rota where children come in and they have to make a number for the day, and then you can do all sorts of different things with that number, whether it's adding something to it or taking something off, or seeing what patterns, anything you can find between numbers across the week. The list is endless, so be creative in how you would use that. A fixed and interactive number line. It's there to offer a visual for notation, so children know how to write the numbers, and it doesn't not just need to go to 10 in P1 or 20. It can be going up to 100, it could be going up to 120 or to 200 if you've got space. And again, further up the school you might even have a number line. It could be that you're working between 100 and 500 and you've got space, or just again be creative and think about what the purpose of it being up there on the wall. You might also want to have a display of the kids' work linked to what they're currently learning, and children love seeing their work on the wall and seeing it in a display. And it also sends children the message that we value what they produce in the classroom. An interactive 100 square is a lovely resource to have. There's, again, loads of things you can do with it. These ones are nice because you can turn the cards around and you can show patterns and different patterns in numbers, or you could turn one around and they have to say what the missing number is, or you could turn a few around. You can look at all sorts of different patterns with times tables. So again, there's lots of ideas you can use for that. You could involve the children, and the children could be turning over the numbers and creating the pattern for the day. Examples of calculations which are annotated are a really good resource to have up. So if you've done examples with the class and you've modelled the steps to show your strategy that you've used, then these can be on display too, so that children can refer to them during lessons. And often we write this kind of thing on the whiteboard or the interactive whiteboard, and then once we've turned the slide or turned the page, the children aren't able to see it. And it might be, you're working with a different group, and so you need the board for something else, or we've put the learning intention and success criteria back up. So having it on perhaps a large sheet of sugar paper enables children to refer to it during the lesson if they're stuck. And then you might want to display your flexible groupings on the wall, and this allows children to see who they are working with and the order of the tasks they will be doing within the lesson. If you use rotations, they can maybe see that they're starting with the teacher job, or they're maybe starting with a game, but again, it helps you to run a smooth classroom. When children's names are stuck on individually, it means they can be moved easily and the groupings can be flexible, but when they're typed up and displayed, then they appear to be more fixed, and we want children to know that they are not stuck within a group. We want children to know that they will have opportunities to work with peers and mixed ability groups so that they can learn from each other. So there's absolutely no need to have all of these things on your wall at one time. You can use these suggestions flexibly so it becomes a working wall that evolves as your numeracy focus alters. But the important thing is that whatever is on your walls is there for a good purpose. The children know why it's there. They can explain to someone else who comes into the classroom why it's there, and they know how to use it. So, manipulatives. Well, manipulatives should be available to children at all stages within the school, not just in the early years. Many children still need manipulatives in the middle and upper stages, and even at secondary school, so we need to work hard to banish this assumption that manipulatives are only for younger children. Children love investigating things in maths and numeracy, and they love having things to play with. So really think carefully about which manipulatives you can use to support the learning, but also to motivate and inspire your children. Sometimes you might have to teach the same concept for a few days until children have grasped it, and you find that you're using the same resource over and over. So it's really, an easy thing to do is to just change the resource to keep it exciting. So you could be teaching missing addend, for example, and you've been using counters for that. And then you might want to change the counters for the teddy bears, and then the next day you might use shells or conkers or something. So just be creative, be imaginative, and just keep remembering, the purpose of what it is you're teaching. But by changing the resource, we're still teaching the same concept, but children think it's something new. And there's lots of other resources here that I'm sure you've got in classrooms or in the school, but just make sure we've got these available for children in the classroom. And one of the really good resources that every teacher should have is the counting stick. It's brilliant for teaching numeracy. There's so much you can do with it, from counting, sequencing, ordering numbers, sticking them on the counting stick, skip counting, multiples and fractions, estimating where numbers go because there's a blank side to the number, the counting stick. And it can also be held vertically to teach negative numbers. So loads of opportunities for good learning and teaching with the counting stick. Playing cards and dice can be used in many ways. For example, adding games and subtracting or multiplying tasks, and they can be used in loads of games too. Cuisenaire rods are a brilliant resource for teaching fractions, as you will have seen from our revised frameworks. And they can also be used for addition and subtraction and algebra, and bar modelling, so another really useful resource in your classroom. So try to ensure there are a range of manipulatives in your room when thinking about your numeracy rich environment, and work hard with the children to establish routines so that they know how to collect and tidy up any resources they are using. And that just helps to support smooth classroom management. Maths games and numeracy games are a fantastic addition to the classroom. Both commercial and school-made games should be available to play during maths lessons and even at lunch times. And playing games encourages strategic mathematical thinking as learners find different strategies for solving problems and deepen their understanding of numbers. Games present opportunities for practice, even without the need for teachers to provide the problems. And teachers can then observe or assess learners and work with individuals or small groups. It frees you up if your children are trained in how to use games. So when introducing a new game to the children, use it as your teaching focus for that day and teach it to the whole class or in small groups at first. And then once the children know how to play it, add it to the menu of games that they can play independently within the class. If you use rotations in numeracy, it could be a task that children have to complete independently when you're working with another group. And every once in a while, stop and discuss the strategies and the numeracy skills they are practicing within the game. This can be quite messy at first, but if you persevere and just keep reiterating the rules, it will eventually run smoothly. And children can also be encouraged to develop their own maths games and quizzes. And if you look in the games folder within the East Lothian Council Frameworks Drive, there are lots of games in there and that's being added to all the time. So please do have a look and make some up for your class. And there are also some blank game boards that you can print off and write in your own number ranges to suit the needs of the children in your own classes. And they are very flexible and you can make up your own instructions or even better, create the instructions with the children. And more games will be added to this drive over time, so please do check in from time to time to see if there is anything new there that would be good for your class. So to finish off, have a wee think about how confident you are that all learners experience activities which are varied, differentiated, active and provide effective support and challenge. And think about how well your learners in your class are enabled to select and make use of high quality resources and equipment, including digital technologies. And finally, consider how well you motivate and engage all learners, particularly in your numeracy and lessons. And perhaps reflect on this in your GTCS profile. So again, here are the references and resources for the text that have been used in this presentation today. And I'd like to thank you very much for joining me today, and if you should need anything else, please do not hesitate to contact myself or anyone else in the team. Thank you.